The stars shone bright against the black of space as the Earth exploration vessel, Horizon, drifted through the empty void. Commander Alan Wells sat in his captain's chair, eyes fixed on the main screen. His ship was far from home, deeper into space than any human had traveled before. "Dr. Miller, what do you make of those readings?" he asked, pointing to a flashing dot on the navigation screen. Catherine Miller brushed her brown hair from her face and looked closely at her science station. "It's strange, Commander. The energy pattern doesn't match anything in our database. It's coming from the third planet in this system? Could it be natural?" Wells asked. Miller shook her head. "Not likely. The pattern is too regular. It has to be artificial." Wells thought for a moment. This mission was supposed to be about mapping stars and planets, not making contact with aliens. But his curiosity got the better of him. "Frank," he called to his security chief, "what do you think?" Frank Delgado stood tall and strong by the door. His dark eyes narrowed as he considered the question. "Could be dangerous. But we're explorers, right? I say we check it out." Wells nodded. "Set a course, Ensign Parker. Let's see what's out there." The Horizon changed direction, its engines glowing blue as it headed toward the mysterious planet. None of the crew knew they were about to make history, and not in the way they had hoped. The planet grew larger on their screen. It was mostly red and brown, with small patches of green and blue. Clouds swirled in its thin atmosphere. "Scans show mining operations on the surface," Miller reported. "Large-scale excavations." "Definitely not natural? Any life forms?" Wells asked. "Yes," Miller said, her voice suddenly tense. "Many, and they're not like anything we've seen before." Before Wells could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, and the computer announced, "Warning. Unknown vessels approaching." On the main screen, 3 ships appeared. They were massive, at least 10 times the size of the Horizon. Their hulls were dark gray and covered in what looked like spikes. "They're hailing us," the communications officer said. "Open a channel," Wells ordered. He straightened his uniform and cleared his throat. "This is Commander Alan Wells of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We come in peace." The screen flickered and the humans got their first look at the aliens. The creature had a hard shell covering most of its body. Its head was large with 4 eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. 2 long antennae twitched on top of its head. "I am Gortal of the Vorsic Confederation," the alien said in a deep, rumbling voice. Somehow, their translation technology was working. "You have entered our territory. Identify your species." "We are humans from the planet Earth," Wells replied calmly. "We didn't know this area was claimed. We're explorers seeking knowledge about the universe." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in different patterns. "Humans? Never heard of your kind. You appear soft, weak. How did creatures like you achieve space travel?" Before Wells could answer, Miller whispered, "Commander, their ships are moving to surround us." Wells tried to stay diplomatic. "We mean no harm, Gortal. We can leave your territory immediately." The alien made a sound that might have been a laugh. "No, you will not leave. You and your ship are now property of the Vorsic Confederation. Prepare to be boarded." "Red alert," Wells shouted. "Evasive maneuvers." The Horizon turned sharply, its engines pushed to maximum power, but the alien ships were faster. They moved like predators, cutting off every escape route. "They're locking onto us with some kind of beam," Miller reported. The ship shuddered. A strange humming filled the air. "Sir, something's happening to the hull," Delgado said, checking the security screens. "They're cutting through." Wells grabbed the ship wide. "Communicator. All hands, prepare for boarding. This is not a drill." The crew rushed to their emergency stations. Some grabbed the few weapons they had, mostly tools that could be used for defense. Exploration vessels weren't built for combat. A loud crash echoed through the ship as the first Vorsic soldiers broke through the hull. They were even more frightening in person. Most stood over 7 feet tall, with natural armor covering their bodies. Some had claws. Others had spike-like growths on their arms and legs. Delgado and his security team met the first wave in the main corridor. They fought bravely, but their tools and emergency weapons did little against the aliens' natural armor. On the bridge, Wells heard the fighting getting closer. "Miller, delete all data about Earth's location." "Now," Miller worked quickly at her console. "Done, sir." "They won't find our home from the ship's computers." The bridge doors burst open. 3. Vorsic warriors stormed in, weapons raised. Behind them came Gortal, his shell gleaming under the ship's lights. "Commander Alan Wells," Gortal said, moving closer. "Your resistance is pointless. Your ship is taken. Your crew is captured." Wells stood tall, facing the alien commander. "What do you want from us?" "Knowledge," Gortal replied. "And to understand how creatures as physically weak as you have survived long enough to develop space travel?" The Vorsic surrounded the bridge crew. One grabbed Miller by the arm, and she winced in pain. "Careful!" Wells shouted. "We're not as durable as you." Gortal moved so close that Wells could smell its strange metallic scent. "Yes, I can see that. So fragile. It's fascinating. In the Vorsic Confederation, only the strong survive? We evolved on harsh worlds that would kill lesser beings in minutes. We call them Deathworlds. Only the strongest species can survive them. Earth has its challenges too," Wells said. "I doubt it compares to our homeworlds," Gortal said. "But we will learn all about your planet soon enough." Wells felt a chill. "We won't tell you anything." Gortal made that strange laughing sound again. "You won't have to. Our scientists have ways of extracting information. Take them to the Dominance." The human crew was herded through their own ship. As they passed the windows, they saw the massive Vorsic command ship drawing closer. It was huge, like a floating city in space. Wells looked at Miller and Delgado, trying to give them courage with his gaze. "Stay strong," he whispered. "We'll find a way out of this." As they were marched onto the alien vessel, Wells couldn't help wondering if they were the first humans to encounter the Vorsic, or if they would be the last. What the Vorsic didn't understand was that humans hadn't survived on Earth because they were physically strong. They had survived because they were adaptable, clever, and more dangerous than they appeared. The Vorsic thought they had captured weak creatures for study. They didn't realize they had just met their match. The inside of the Vorsic research station, Dominance, was cold and dimly lit. The walls were made of a strange metal that seemed to absorb light. Commander Alan Wells and his crew were separated as soon as they arrived. Wells hadn't seen Miller or Delgado for 3 days. They kept him in a small room with a hard bed and a strange toilet he wasn't sure how to use. Twice a day, a guard would bring him food, a gray paste that tasted like old fish. On the 4th day, the door opened, and Gortal entered with 2 guards. "Your crew is very interesting," Gortal said, "especially the female scientist. She has answered many of our questions." Wells felt a flash of anger. "If you've hurt her, calm yourself," Gortal said, raising a clawed hand. "We haven't harmed any of you." "That would be poor science. We are studying you. We're not lab animals," Wells said. "To us, you are specimens," Gortal replied. "Come, Chief Scientist Zexvar wants to speak with you." The guards moved Wells through long hallways. Other aliens watched as he passed. Most looked like Gortal, but some were different species. All had thick skin, shells, or scales. All looked built for survival in harsh places. They entered a large room, filled with screens and strange machines. Dr. Catherine Miller was there, looking tired but unharmed. She was working on some kind of puzzle while aliens watched and took notes. "Catherine!" Wells called. She looked up, relief on her face. "Commander, are you okay?" Before he could answer, a new Vorsic approached. This one was smaller than Gortal, with more delicate features and 6 eyes instead of 4. "I am Zexvar," the alien said, "Chief Scientist of the Dominance. Your species fascinates me, Commander Wells." "Glad to hear it," Wells said dryly. "Where is the rest of my crew?" "The large male is in physical testing," Zexvar said. "He has impressive endurance for such a soft creature." "The others are in various study groups?" Zexvar moved to a large screen and brought up images of human DNA. Your genetic structure is surprisingly complex, the scientist said. And yet you lack the basic survival adaptations that most spacefaring species develop. Like, what? Miller asked, her scientific curiosity getting the better of her. Natural armor, resistance to radiation? Multiple breathing systems, the ability to eat almost anything, Zexvar listed. By all logic, your species should have died out long ago. We compensate in other ways, Wells said. Yes, Zexvar agreed. Your brain functions are remarkable. Your problem-solving abilities exceed even our most advanced AI systems. The scientist brought up new images brain scans of the human crew members. Dr. Miller has completed 15 hours of continuous testing without significant mental fatigue, Zexvar said with something like respect. And your security chief has demonstrated remarkable adaptive thinking in our survival simulations. Wells wasn't surprised. Frank Delgado was one of the best security officers in the fleet. Where is Frank now? Wells asked. Follow me, Zexvar said. They walked to another part of the station. Through a large window, Wells could see what looked like a jungle environment. Delgado was there, using vines and sticks to build some kind of shelter. He was dirty and his uniform was torn, but he looked determined. We placed him in this environment 3 days ago, Zexvar explained. The atmosphere is thin, the plants are toxic to touch, and the temperature drops to freezing every 6 hours. Get him out of there, Wells demanded. He is in no danger, Zexvar said. We are simply observing. Most species we test die within hours. Your security chief has not only survived, but has built tools, found safe water, and even set traps for the small predators we introduced. Wells watched as Frank carefully set a snare using vines and a bent branch. His movements were precise and patient. He doesn't know he's being watched, does he? Wells asked quietly. No, Zexvar admitted. The test is more accurate that way. Small, six-legged creature approached Frank's trap. The snare snapped, catching the animal. Frank moved quickly, finishing it off with a sharpened stick. Impressive, Gortal muttered. For a species with no natural weapons, you are surprisingly good at making them. That's what humans do, Miller said. We adapt, we make tools, we overcome. Zexvar turned to face Wells and Miller. Your planet Earth, what kind of world is it? It's beautiful, Miller said. Oceans, mountains, forests, deserts, all kinds of environments. But not a death world, Gortal said. Not like our homeworlds. Wells thought about Earth's history, about the predators that hunted early humans, about diseases, natural disasters, and the countless challenges humanity had faced. Earth has its dangers, he said carefully. Just different ones than you're used to. A young Vorsic assistant rushed into the room. Commander Gortal, our sensors have detected another vessel approaching at high speed. It appears to be human. Gortal's antennae twitched with excitement. More specimens. Excellent. Wells tried to keep his face neutral, but inside, hope bloomed. Earth must have sent a rescue mission when the Horizon didn't return on schedule. What kind of vessel? Gortal asked the assistant. Larger than the first one. Different design. It has ... The assistant paused, checking his datapad. Unusual. Energy readings. Prepare the capture teams, Gortal ordered. I want these humans taken intact. As Gortal and most of the Vorsic left the room, Zexvar remained with Wells and Miller. Your people are persistent, the scientist said, coming this far to find you. Humans look after their own, Miller replied. Zexvar studied them both. There is something you're not telling us about your species. Something important, Wells said nothing. The less the Vorsic knew about humanity, the better. Back in the observation room, an alarm suddenly blared. The screens showing Frank in the test environment flickered and went dark. What's happening? Zexvar demanded, rushing to a control panel. A voice came over the speaker system. Security breach in testing zone 3. The human specimen has escaped the environment. Wells couldn't help smiling. Frank Delgado had been Navy Special Forces before joining the Horizon crew. If anyone could escape a controlled environment, it was him. Says EX-VA turned to Wells, all six eyes wide with surprise. Your security chief disabled our monitoring systems and broke through a wall we thought was impenetrable. Like I said, Miller repeated, humans adapt. As the alarms continued to sound, Wells felt his hope grow stronger. Between Frank on the loose inside the station and a human rescue ship approaching, things were finally looking up. What the Vorsic didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, was that humans hadn't evolved in the way they had. Earth's changing environments and diverse threats had created a species that survived not through physical strength, but through intelligence, cooperation, and an unrelenting will to live. The Deathworlders thought they had found a weak, inferior species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Olivia Garcia stood on the bridge of the military vessel Defender, her eyes fixed on the distant space station. The Horizon had disappeared 3 weeks ago, and Earth Command had sent her to find out why. Any response to our hails? She asked her communications officer. No, Captain. But we're picking up the Horizon's emergency beacon. It's coming from inside that station, Garcia nodded. She was a veteran of 3 space conflicts, and her instincts told her this was trouble. Lieutenant Pierce, what's our tactical situation? Ryan Pierce, a young officer with a gift for strategy, studied his screens. 3 large vessels are moving to surround us. Their weapon systems are active. They're following the same pattern used by predator packs on Earth. They think we're prey, Garcia said quietly. Let's show them otherwise. Battle stations. The crew rushed to their positions. Unlike the Horizon, the Defender was built for combat. It carried advanced weapons and had a hull designed to withstand attacks. Captain, we're being hailed, the communications officer announced. On screen, Garcia ordered. The image of Gortal appeared. Unknown vessel, you have entered Vorsic territory. Surrender your ship immediately. Garcia stood tall. I am Captain Olivia Garcia of the Earth vessel Defender. We've come for our people. Return the crew of the Horizon, and we'll leave peacefully. Vortal's antennae twitched. More humans, excellent. Your vessel and crew will make fine additions to our collection. That's not going to happen, Garcia said firmly. This is your only warning. Return our people, or we will take action. Gortal made the sound that passed. For laughter among the Vorsic. Your weapons cannot harm our ships. Your defenses cannot stop our boarding parties. Surrender now. Garcia cut the transmission. Pierce, what's your assessment? The tactical officer had been studying the alien ships carefully. Their hulls appear strong, but their propulsion systems are exposed. They're confident in their strength, which means they've never needed to protect their weak points. Target those points, Garcia ordered. Fire when ready. The Defender's weapons came to life. Beams of energy shot toward the approaching Vorsic ships, striking precisely where Pierce had indicated. One of the alien vessels spun out of control, its engines damaged. Direct hit? Pierce announced. Their shields weren't even active. They didn't expect us to fight back. Keep firing, Garcia ordered, and prepare boarding teams. We're going to get our people. Inside the Dominance Research Station, Commander. Wells and Dr. Miller felt the shudder as something hit the station. What was that? Miller asked. Before Zexvar could answer, Frank Delgado burst into the room. He had fashioned a weapon from pieces of equipment and had a Vorsic security card in his hand. Commander, Doc, time to go. He shouted. ZEX-VAR reached for an alarm, but Delgado was faster. He struck the scientist with his makeshift weapon, knocking the alien unconscious. Frank, how did you escape? Wells asked as they ran from the room. These aliens think too much alike, Delgado explained. Their security systems all follow the same patterns. Easy to predict once you understand them. They hurried through the corridors. The station was in chaos. Alarms blared, and Vorsic soldiers rushed in all directions. We need to find the rest of the crew, Wells said. Delgado nodded. I found their locations on a computer terminal. This way. As they turned the corner, they ran into a group of aliens. But these weren't Vorsic. They were smaller, with scaled skin and large eyes. "Humans," one of them gasped. "You're fighting the Vorsic." "Who are you?" Miller asked. "I am Krell," the alien said. "My people were conquered by the Vorsic 3 cycles ago. We are slaves here, like many others. But now there is fighting, and the security systems are failing." Another explosion rocked the station. "That would be our rescue party," Wells said with a smile. "Krell, we could use your help finding the rest of our crew." "We will help you," Krell said. "And perhaps you can help us too." Together, the humans and Krell's people moved through the station, freeing the rest of the Horizon's crew. Along the way, they encountered more enslaved species, all eager to join the uprising. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Defender, Captain Garcia watched as her strategy unfolded. 2 of the 3 Vorsic ships were disabled, and the 3rd was retreating. "Boarding teams report success, Captain," Pierce announced. "They've entered the station and are encountering minimal resistance." The Vorsic weren't prepared for a direct assault. "Any sign of the Horizon crew?" Garcia asked. "Yes, ma'am. Commander Wells has made contact. He reports that he's not just with his crew, he's leading some kind of rebellion inside the station." Garcia smiled. "Leave it to an exploration crew to make friends with aliens while being held captive." Inside the Dominance, Wells, Miller, and Delgado had reached the main hangar bay with their growing group of allies. They found the Horizon, damaged but still intact. "Can we get it running?" Wells asked Miller. She examined the ship quickly. "They've removed some parts, but I think we can make it work. We just need time." "We'll give you time," Delgado said, organizing the freed prisoners into defensive positions. Gortal's voice suddenly boomed over the station's communication system. "Attention all Vorsic warriors. Crush this human resistance. Show them what it means to challenge the masters of the Deathworlds." Krell looked worried. "The Vorsic are fierce fighters. They evolved on worlds that would kill most species. Their natural weapons and armor make them nearly unbeatable in close combat." Delgado grinned. "Nearly unbeatable isn't the same as unbeatable. On Earth we have a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in." "The dog? I don't understand," Krell said, confused. "It means physical strength isn't everything," Wells explained. "Strategy, willpower, and adaptability matter more." As if to prove his point, the doors to the hangar burst open and a squad of human soldiers rushed in, led by a tall woman with captain's insignia. "Commander Wells?" she called. "Captain Olivia Garcia, Earth Defense Force, we're here to bring you home." Wells had never been so happy to see a fellow officer. "Captain, we have some friends who need a ride." Garcia looked at the diverse group of aliens. "I can see that. The more, the merrier." A loud crash came from the far side of the hangar. A group of Vorsic warriors had broken through, led by Gortal himself. "You will not escape," the Vorsic commander roared. "This station belongs to the Confederation." "Not anymore," Garcia replied, calmly. She raised her hand and her soldiers formed a line, weapons ready. The 2 groups faced each other across the hangar, the heavily armored Vorsic with their natural weapons against the humans with their technology and their unlikely. Elaz Gortal stepped forward. "Even now, you think you can win? We are the Vorsic. We survived worlds that would kill your soft species in minutes." Garcia didn't flinch. "Maybe so. But there's something you should know about humans, Gortal. We don't need thick skin or claws to be dangerous. We've spent our entire history learning how to overcome stronger opponents." As the Vorsic charged forward, the humans proved her words true. The battle for the dominance had begun, and with it, a new chapter in galactic history. The battle in the hangar bay was short but fierce. The Vorsic charged forward, their natural armor gleaming under the bright lights. They expected an easy victory against the physically weaker humans. They were wrong. Captain Garcia's soldiers moved with practiced precision. They didn't try to match the Vorsic's strength. Instead, they used the environment to their advantage. They took cover behind cargo containers, used the height of storage platforms, and coordinated their attacks. Lieutenant Pierce directed the defense, his tactical mind finding weaknesses in the Vorsic approach. They attack in straight lines. He called out, "Use their momentum against them." Frank Delgado led a group of the freed aliens, showing them how to set traps using equipment from the hangar. Together, they turned the Vorsik's strength into a weakness. When a Vorsik warrior charged, a human soldier would step aside at the last moment, causing the alien to crash into a wall or trip over carefully placed obstacles. The freed aliens, following the humans' example, worked together to bring down enemies that individually would have been too strong for them. Gortal watched in growing anger and confusion as his warriors fell. "This is impossible," he roared. "We are superior." Commander Wells, working with Dr. Miller to repair the horizon, looked up at the Vorsik commander. "Superior strength isn't everything, Gortal. Humans evolved differently. We had to be smarter, more adaptable." A Vorsik warrior charged at Wells, but Captain Garcia stepped in, using the alien's momentum to flip it over her shoulder. The move was from an ancient Earth martial art designed to let smaller fighters defeat larger ones. "Our ancestors weren't the strongest animals on Earth," Garcia explained as she helped Wells up. "But we survived because we worked together and used our brains." The tide of battle turned. More human soldiers arrived from the Defender, and more enslaved aliens joined the fight against their Vorsik masters. Gortal, seeing his forces defeated, retreated with his remaining warriors. "We've bought some time," Garcia said. "But we need to leave before they bring reinforcements." "The horizon isn't ready yet," Miller reported. "They removed key engine parts." Krell stepped forward. "I know where they keep such things. I can help?" "Go with him," Wells told Miller. "Frank, keep our exit secure. Captain Garcia, we need to warn Earth about the Vorsik." "That won't stop with just our ships," Garcia nodded. "We captured their communication center. We can send a message from there." While Miller and Krell went to find the missing engine parts, Wells and Garcia made their way to the communication center. The station was in chaos. Freed slaves were fighting their former masters everywhere. In the communication center, Wells recorded a message to Earth Command, explaining about the Vorsik and their threat. As he finished, the main screen lit up. A new face appeared, a Vorsik with more elaborate shell patterns than Gortal. "I am Supreme Commander Drakthal of the Vorsik Confederation," the alien announced. "Who speaks for the humans?" Wells and Garcia exchanged glances. "I am Commander Alan Wells of Earth Exploration, and this is Captain Olivia Garcia of Earth Defense." Drakthal studied them with cold eyes. "You have attacked our research station, disabled our ships, and incited rebellion among our subject species. These are acts of war." "We came for our people," Garcia replied firmly. "You took them against their will." "The strong take what they want," Drakthal said. "That is the way of the universe." "Not our universe," Wells countered. "Where we come from, cooperation is valued over domination." Drakthal's antennae twitched in what seemed like amusement. Idealistic words from a species that hasn't faced the true harshness of the galaxy. "The Vorsik evolved on worlds that would kill your kind in minutes. Our strength was earned through countless generations of survival." "Earth has its challenges too," Wells said. "But we overcame them differently. We used our minds, not just our bodies." "Your resistance here is impressive," Drakthal admitted. But it changes nothing. The Vorsik Confederation spans 300 systems. We have conquered species far more numerous than yours. This small victory means little." Garcia stepped closer to the screen. "It means everything. You've never faced humans before. You don't know what we're capable of." "A full Vorsik battle fleet is already on its way," Drakthal warned. "They will recapture the dominance and destroy your vessels." The communication was interrupted as Krell and Dr. Miller burst into the room. "We found the parts," Miller announced, then stopped when she saw the screen. "Who's that?" "The big boss," Garcia said grimly. "He's threatening us with a battle fleet." Krell looked at the screen and gasped. "Supreme Commander Drakthal, the ruler of the Confederation." Drakthal's eyes narrowed when he saw Krell. "So the slave species rise up as well. Your punishment will be severe." "Not if we have anything to say about it," Wells replied. He turned to Miller. How soon can the horizon fly? With these parts, 30 minutes, maybe less? Wells nodded and faced Drakthal again. This isn't over. Humans don't surrender to bullies, no matter how strong they are. He cut the transmission before Drakthal could respond. We need to move, Garcia said. If a battle fleet is coming, we have to be gone. Before it arrives. They rushed back to the hangar bay. Miller and the engineering team were already installing the recovered parts in the horizon. Delgado and the freed aliens had set up defensive positions around the ships. How much time do we have? Wells asked. Sensors show multiple ships entering. The system, Pierce reported from his position. Estimated arrival, 20 minutes. Not enough time to fix the horizon completely, Miller said, wiping sweat from her forehead. But maybe enough to make it fly, Krell approached Wells. Commander, my people and the other freed species request asylum. We cannot stay here. Wells looked at the diverse group of aliens who had helped them. Some were injured, all looked hopeful. Of course, he said without hesitation, the horizon has room. And Earth will welcome you. Garcia nodded in agreement. The Defender too, we'll take as many as we can. As they prepared to leave, Gortal's voice came over the station's speakers. One last time, humans. You think you've won, but this is just the beginning. The Vorsic never forget an enemy. Wells looked at his new allies, humans and aliens working together, loading the ships, treating the wounded, sharing knowledge and skills. Neither do we, he said quietly. But we don't have to be enemies. The clock was ticking. The Vorsic fleet was approaching. But for the first time since the horizon was captured, Wells felt real hope. Humans had proven they could stand against the Deathworlders. Now they just had to make it home to prepare Earth for what was coming. The future of human-Vorsic relations would depend on what happened in the next few minutes. Would they escape? Or would the battle for the dominance be just the first clash in a new interstellar war? 5 years passed since the escape from the dominance. 5 years of change that no one could have predicted. Commander Alan Wells. Now Admiral Wells stood on the observation deck of Earth's first space embassy. The massive structure orbited a neutral planet called Nexus Prime, far from both Earth and Vorsic space. The view was stunning. Ships from dozens of worlds moved around the planet below. Some were human vessels, others belonged to the many species that had once been under Vorsic control. Still hard to believe, isn't it? Dr. Catherine Miller said as she joined him at the window. She wore the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps now, with a silver pin showing her status as Chief Science Liaison. Wells nodded. Sometimes I wake up thinking we're still prisoners on that station. Instead, we changed the galaxy, Miller said with a smile. The door opened and Frank Delgado entered. He still looked strong and alert, but now he had the rank of general on his uniform. They're ready for us, Delgado announced. The signing ceremony starts in 10 minutes. Together they walked through the embassy. Aliens of all types moved through the halls. Some nodded respectfully to the three humans. After all, everyone knew their story, how the capture of one small Earth ship had started a chain of events. That changed everything. They entered a large conference room. Captain Olivia Garcia now, Admiral Garcia was already there, talking with Krell, the reptilian-alien war formal clothes that marked him as the ambassador of his free homeworld. There. You are, Garcia said when she saw them. The Vorsic delegation just arrived. Are they behaving themselves? Delgado asked, only half-joking. Krell nodded. They have kept all the terms of the ceasefire. Even Gortal seems to have accepted the new reality. As if summoned by his name, Gortal entered the room. The Vorsic commander looked much the same, his shell still gleaming, but his manner was different. Less arrogant, more cautious. Admiral Wells, Gortal said with a small bow. Dr. Miller, General Delgado, it is ... Commander Gortal, Wells replied politely. I understand you're representing the Vorsic at the signing today. Yes, Supreme Commander Drakthal sends his regrets. He is overseeing reforms on our homeworld. Gortal's antennae twitched in what the humans now recognized as discomfort. Much has changed for us. That was an understatement. After the humans escaped the dominance with dozens of freed slaves, they had returned to Earth with their story and new allies. Earth's leaders had immediately prepared for war, building defenses and strengthening the fleet, but the war never came, at least not in the way they expected. Instead, the freed slave species, armed with technology from Earth and knowledge of Vorsic weaknesses, had started rebellions across the Confederation. The Vorsic, used to fighting enemies head-on with brute force, were unprepared for guerrilla tactics and asymmetric warfare. Within 2 years, half their empire had broken away. By the 3rd year, the Vorsic Supreme Council had contacted Earth, seeking peace. "I still don't understand," Gortal said quietly to Wells. "By all logic, the Vorsic should have dominated the galaxy. We are stronger, more durable. We evolved on worlds that would kill most species." Miller joined the conversation. "That's exactly why you didn't win. On Earth, the most dangerous predators weren't always the strongest. They were the most adaptable. Your people spent generations becoming physically stronger," Wells added. "Humans spent our history becoming smarter, more creative, and better at working together. Different paths to survival." Gortal considered this. "Perhaps the Confederation has something to learn from humans after all." A chime sounded, indicating the ceremony was about to begin. Delegates from 20 different worlds took their places around a large circular table. Wells, Miller, Garcia, and Delgado sat in the section marked for Earth. Gortal and 2 other Vorsic sat opposite them. Ambassador Daniel Howard, Earth's chief diplomat, entered last. He carried a datapad containing the Galactic Charter, the document they had all come to sign. "Friends, colleagues, and honored representatives," Howard began. "Today marks a historic moment. For the first time, species from across our galaxy gather not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals." He placed the datapad on a stand in the center of the table. "This charter establishes the Galactic Council, where all member worlds will have an equal voice. It guarantees the sovereignty of each world, establishes free trade, and creates a mutual defense pact." Howard looked around the room. 5 years ago, the Vorsic Confederation believed they were destined to rule because they were the strongest. The capture of one small Earth vessel changed everything. Wells thought back to those tense days on the Dominance. How different things might have been if the Vorsic had simply left the horizon alone. "The signing will now begin," Howard announced. "Each representative will place their hand or appendage on the pad and state their agreement." One by one, the delegates approached the center. Krell went first, placing his scaled hand on the pad and speaking clearly. "The free world of Velos agrees." Others followed, beings with tentacles, wings, multiple arms, or strange energy fields instead of physical bodies. Each had once been part of the Vorsic Confederation. Each was now independent. When Gortal's turn came, he stood tall. "The Vorsic Confederation agrees, with hopes for a peaceful future." Finally, it was Earth's turn. Howard nodded to Wells. "Admiral, would you do the honors? None of this would have happened without you and your crew." Wells approached the center and placed his hand on the pad. He thought of the journey that had brought them here, from prisoners to diplomats, from victims to partners. "Earth agrees," he said clearly. "For a better galaxy for all species." The pad glowed green, indicating that all signatures were complete. The Galactic Charter was now in effect. As applause filled the room, Wells looked at his friends. Miller was smiling. Delgado stood proud. Garcia nodded in approval. Even Gortal seemed satisfied. "I never imagined a research mission would end like this," Wells said to Miller as they moved to the reception that followed. "That's the thing about humans," she replied. "We're unpredictable." Later, as the celebration continued, Wells found himself again at the observation window with Gortal. "The Deathworlders thought they were the apex predators of the galaxy until they met humans," the Vorsic said thoughtfully. "Now we're all discovering that cooperation might be the most powerful adaptation of all." Wells smiled. "There's room in the stars for all of us. Different worlds, different strengths, but a shared future?" As ships from a dozen worlds passed by the window, Wells felt proud. Humanity had proved itself not just in battle, but in peace. The Deathworlders had indeed met their match not just in strength, but in vision for a better galaxy.